Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of Coffee and Sports in the Morning. I'm your host, Mr. William D. Morgan. I am back to host yet one more show for the week. Got my partner in crime, Mo Better. Mo, what's up, man?
Morning, Will. Morning, everybody that's joining us.
How you doing? How you doing, bro? How was your night?
It was entertaining. You know me. I'm always gonna be watching something sports related. So I was kind of like channel surfing between NBA games. But other than that, I had a blast.
Cool. Real quick, big thanks and shout out to my man Brett for filling in for me yesterday. Your boy had a doctor's appointment that went very well. So yes, yay for me.
That's always a good
And
thing.
yeah, it was a good thing. Yeah. And Brett, I do appreciate you stepping up to the plate, my friend. Appreciate that. Good to know you working with good people on an everyday basis. Good to know. All right, Mo. I got a question for you, my friend. We saw an upset of sorts last night with the Pistons getting a huge win against the Celtics last night. Um, Tell me what happened in that game and how has the Pistons been able to make this huge turnaround from last season?
I think it's a combination of they're developing a culture. They have a legitimate franchise player in Cade Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
They have a young core that follows his lead. And you look at a guy like Jalen Duran, he's developing. Like they have talent on that team that, to their management's credit, instead of panicking and making a move and moving young talent, they continue to stay with them, let them develop. I said before the season, the Pistons' goal under Cade Cunningham's leadership should be established respectability around the league. I
Right.
think they won like 14 or 16 games last year. So the mission was to establish that and build on it. And they've gone beyond that. I don't think they're a title threat at all.
No,
But I,
no,
but I,
no.
but I do think if they play one of the higher seeds and that higher seed's not playing their best game, I think the Pistons have the talent and the fearlessness to upset somebody because when you're that young, Will, you don't know what you don't know.
No,
You
you
don't know
don't.
what you don't know, and
Mm-hmm.
you play fearlessly. You just play ball. You just hoop. You feel no pressure. They're coming in. If they make the playoffs, and I think they will, I think they're walking in there with house money like that. They're happy to get there, but I don't think they're going to settle for that. They're going to try to win a series. So I them beating Boston didn't surprise me. The Celtics, I still think, are the best team in the NBA, but there are nights when how they play backfires on them. If you live on that hill of shooting the threes,
Yeah.
there's gonna be some games where those threes don't fall, and rather than go, okay, we're not shooting well tonight, let's attack the basket, let's get to the free throw line. They just constantly shoot threes. They just ran, and look, it's worked for them, so I can't tell you it's not a winning formula, but it's a flawed formula,
Yeah.
and they can be had. And should they match up with a team like the Cavaliers in the playoffs, I'm just saying the Cavaliers are built. If you look at their roster construction, they're built to beat the Celtics. I'm not saying they're going to,
Mhm.
because I still believe if both teams are playing their best game, Boston is still the team to beat.
Yes. Yes. I would
But
agree.
I want to give Detroit all the credit in the world though with what they've done with those young players. They made some really smart veteran moves. Will bringing in Tobias Harris. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was a big thing. Tim Hardaway Jr. They've brought in some guys that are not just locker room guys, but they're being productive on the floor as well. So I think they've done all the right things in the offseason and during the trade deadline. So I like what Detroit's doing. I like where they're headed. To me, the sky's the limit for what they could be 2 or 3 years from now.
I'm loving what they're doing. Shows what happens when you don't panic, as you said, and stick with it. Well, my night was ruined. The Knicks won, beat the Philadelphia 76ers. Paul George had a good game for a change after he came out and said he's putting aside the podcast to focus on a championship. Bro, you should have been done that. You should have been done that. What took you so long to come to that conclusion?
I found that interesting. That let me stop this podcast while while we're what are we 12, 14 games under 500, and
Yep, yep.
and let me get serious about winning a title. Spoiler alert: they're not going to win the title this year. That might come as a shocker. Believe it or not, Philly's not going to win the title this year, and I'd be surprised at their current rate if they even make the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
might as well go back to podcasting because he's not. It's not like they're going to be playing in June. So
He might have run out of he made a he something had to cause that. Maybe he ran out of ad revenue or sponsorship money. Something had to cause that to happen. I don't think
yeah.
he just came up to that conclusion. We need to. I need to sit back so I can help win a championship, bro. You are so far behind the 8 ball. That ain't even funny. Brett says, "Don't you want the 76ers to lose at this point?" You know what? My only issue with that, Brett, is the fact that in the NBA and other teams, when you tank, which it seems like they're supposedly are doing, you get rewarded for it. And I hate that.
Yeah.
If you're bad, you're bad, but at least compete. And it's like they don't want to compete. And Maxie, you need to get the heck up out of there. You need to leave quick, fast, and in a hurry. I feel for you, brother. I feel for you.
I really like Tyrese Maxey, and
I do too.
I stated this last season. Move Embiid and build around Maxey. Maxey, to me, is the player. He is your franchise player. He is your future, and you need to set him up for success. The last thing you need to do is pair him with Joel Embiid for another 3 or 4 years. It's like tying an anchor around his neck. You stalled or stunted his growth.
Yep.
And adding Paul George, you actually added another anchor around his neck. This is Paul George, who's no longer a superstar. I don't even know if he's an all-star, but he's not worth the $225 million they gave him. They got Paul George about 3 years too late. They got him about 3 years too late. This version of Paul George is not going to help them win a title. If anything, this version of Paul George, along with his huge cap number, is going to keep them from winning a title. The best thing they can do right now, because Embiid has told everybody that, listen, I'm going to need another surgery.
Yeah.
If you're going to need another surgery, why are we trying to play you? And when you watch him play, Will, the man is lumbering down the court. Like, he can't move. Can't move side to side, no lateral movement. Like, he is stiff. He compromises their defense. He's become a 7'1", 280-pound jump shooter because he can't really get in the post and he can't move.
Yo, I agree. Brett says, but the 76ers are putting themselves in a position where they don't have a choice. Is the only reason he said that. And the top six is top six protected. So if it falls outside of that, they don't get it. But still, I mean, I don't know. I just hate this. I just hate seeing this from a once proud city. And I feel sorry for little 76ers fans. I feel sorry for Gene. I feel sorry for people who go out and actually support that team on a nightly basis. It's just a shame. It's just a shame.
I mean, the upside is you're in Philly. You're still on the high that the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
True.
That high is going to have to sustain you until baseball season. You can just skip. You can just kind of like sleep or nap through basketball season. Matter of fact, if you're a Philly fan, y'all need to focus on like college basketball. See who gets into the tournament.
But look at Villanova.
Right.
Look at Villanova. Paul George is even not Paul George anymore. Just Paul. Out goes PG-13 and PG-8.
I'm with Brett. Paul George is just Paul now. He's just Paul.
Yeah, he's just Paul. That's all. All right, Mo. We haven't had a chance to talk since last week. I wanted to get your breakdown, get your thoughts on Luka's triple-double versus the Dallas Mavericks the other night. What was your thoughts as you saw the Lakers get that win?
One, he was playing with a lot of emotion. He was really fired up, but at the same time, you could tell he was nervous.
Yeah.
He hit a deep step back three, turned and yelled to the bench, was really emotional, and you got caught up in it. But as you watch the game play on, he played well, but he shot horribly. Like, there was one step back three, he was all by himself, and he airballed it. I mean, it was nerves. It was nerves for him. And you can tell it's still personal for him. This is still raw for him. Yeah. So I thought he played well. Outside of his shooting, he rebounded well. They had him more as the primary ball handler, which to me is the only way the Lakers become a threat in the West. You have to let Luka be Luka. And because LeBron is still the more athletic of the two who likes to cut back door and move off the ball, Luka's got to be the primary. So I enjoyed the game, but I didn't get too crazy because Dallas was shorthanded. It would have been a much more entertaining game if they had their bigs and AD, right? If they had
Hmm.
AD, like what would that look like? That would be a
Right,
completely different game because it's not like any of the Lakers bigs could guard Anthony Davis.
right, right. Let me ask you this: who would you want in a close game for your Lakers? Who would you want to take the last shot, Luka or LeBron?
Uh
Close game.
that's a tough one. I think I would go with LeBron only because if it's 5 seconds or maybe less than five, LeBron gives you the option of he can shoot the jump shot or he can attack the basket.
Right.
Luca more time than not is going to settle for. I wouldn't say settle, but he's going to go for the step back. The great thing about having the choice is both of them have incredible court vision. So they might draw a double team real quick and find the open man. I don't think you can lose either way. I would just say that between the two, LeBron is the more efficient scorer.
I do agree. I do agree with that. All right. Let's switch over to the women's game for just a second. Diana Taurasi announced her retirement the other day. I hate to see an OG go out like this, but what's your thoughts on Diana Taurasi's career?
She has a legitimate claim to be the GOAT. When you think about women's basketball, she has a
Yep.
legitimate claim to that. Some might already have
Yep.
her as the GOAT. You have to think about what she's meant to women's basketball from the collegiate level to when she stepped into the pros, and she's done everything. She's been all WNBA. She's made multiple All-Star teams. She's won 3 championships. She's been three-time finals. She's done everything. Led the league in scoring like a walking bucket. Like when you look at statistical dominance, she's got statistical dominance and she's got dominance on the court in terms of wins. I don't know how you don't admire someone who attacked the game. Like Diana Taurasi is the kind of person that embraces competition. Like, oh, you're the best player. When we get on the court, I'll show you that I'm the best player. Like she was that person,
Yeah.
and I admire her for that. Like she will be missed. She's gonna be missed. The great thing, I think the W is in great hands because they have a lot of current stars. Obviously, the best player in the game right now is Asia Wilson, but they have a lot of current and young up and coming stars. So the game is in great hands. Tarasi's doing what the vet's supposed to do on the back end of their careers. I'm leaving the game in better hands than it was when I walked in.
Yes.
And I love that for her and for the W. So she'll be missed. I just remember watching her in college, and I was not rooting for UConn.
Hmm.
But I'd be damned if UConn didn't win every time I rooted against them.
Oh
And,
yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
she was one of the main reasons.
Shout out to Gino. Shout out to Gino and that team doing their thing up there. Do you think Adrian Wilson is following in her footsteps as being the GOAT?
I think she's right there in that path. Asia's now obviously they're different players.
Hmm.
Tarasi's more of a perimeter player, and Asia's more a mid post to the elbow type player. But Asia can do everything. She can score, rebound. She's a good defender. I I think Asia Wilson is on that path. But there are so many talented players that aren't done. Like Stewie's still there, still playing at a high
Yep.
level.
Yep.
You just got Clark coming in, and that whole rookie class impacting the game, and then you're going to have a whole nother rookie class coming in with people like Kate Beckers, who's a baller. Like I'm
Yep.
just excited for the game. So I think Asia is still the best player until somebody proves me wrong. But I don't know. The question should be can Asia Wilson have the sustained greatness that Tarasi had for almost 20 years?
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough to follow. You mentioned the young rookie class. Have you seen Angel Reese play in that 3-on-3 tournament?
I did not see her play in the 3-on-3. I saw the 1-on-1, but I didn't see the 3-on-3.
Look like she's getting a little bit better. But from what you saw of her last season, what does she have to do to improve? Because a lot of people are comparing her to Clark, but the thing about it, they're two different players entirely, two different
Again,
positions.
right. One is a point guard, a perimeter player. The other one's a post player.
Yeah.
Completely different games, and they live in different lanes. I would say Angel Reese needs to work on the same thing she needed to work on in college. Like she has great instincts for pursuing the ball as a rebounder, but she needs to work on her post game, and she needs to
Yeah.
become a better finisher. She's not a good finisher. She's not a good finisher around the basket. I think she needs to get stronger and needs to add more to her game. But look, even with the raw talent that she's got now, she's an impactful player. Imagine what she could be if she continued to develop and hone her skills.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For sure. For sure. You think Lisa Leslie might work with her a little bit more, as she was talking about helping her finish around the
I
rim a little bit?
I'd work with Lisa Leslie. I'd work with Candace Parker. I would pick the greats' brains.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
on the off season over the years, how many guys was working out with Olajuwon trying to get their improving their footwork.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem taking from the greats and learning from the greats. I hope she embraces that idea that they can help her with her footwork, help her develop a go-to move around the basket.
All right, all right. Real quick, back over to the NBA. I gotta ask this question, and it brings up the Sixers once again. Who has the bigger big three disaster? Suns or Sixers?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gonna go Sixers
Yeah,
only because I don't think the Suns have a big three because I don't feel like Bradley Beal is a part of no. I think Bradley Beal is vastly overrated. Like to me, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, same dude, same dude.
yeah,
You know they both have talent. You know they're both talented, but neither one of them is really that guy. Like as gifted a player as Zach LaVine is, he makes it look easier. You know this, Will. Zach LaVine is as talented a player as there is in the NBA, and yet what we don't do is we don't talk about Zach LaVine the way we talk about Jason Tatum, or we don't even talk like about Zach LaVine the way we talk about Jaylen Brown. We
nope,
don't.
nope,
Zach
nope.
LaVine is talented, but if you were saying how do you win? Can you win with Zach LaVine? Sure, you can win with Zach LaVine if he's your third or fourth best player.
He won't be the
You can
reason why you win.
right. He can help. It's the same thing with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is vastly overrated. He was the best player on a bad team.
Yeah,
He's never been the best player on a good team. He would never be the best player on a good team. When they made that trade, they basically sunk their ship. So I'm more disappointed in the Sixers because the Suns are actually exactly what I thought they would be. There's no shock in those results. The
yeah,
Sixers is more disappointing because you kept thinking, okay, Embiid's going to get it together. Paul George is going to come in as the third option and take more pressure off Embiid so he can be fresh. Like I thought that was the plan, and it's never come to fruition. And it starts
no,
with Embiid. I look, if you're a big man, Will, you know this, and you've had problems with your knees, your ankles, the lower part of your body. The first thing you need to do is work on conditioning and lose some weight, right?
yep,
Let's
agreed.
take pressure off of my body. Let's take pressure off of my bad knees. And Embiid, like Zion, I've heard Zion's lost some weight, but Embiid more or less has come into camp. He looks pretty much like the same guy. What I don't understand, Will, is you were hurt. You weren't at your best, and you played in the Olympics while you were hurt. And then you come to training camp after playing in the Olympics, like, yeah, I can't play. I can't move. Like, but you were in the Olympics.
Right, right,
If you're
right,
not 100%,
right,
bro, you don't go to the Olympics.
right.
That kind of stuff drives me crazy because to me that's selfish. That's selfish. You know you're not 100%, and so you just kind of like put your team in the hole to begin with. I think they're both disappointing. I think there are extended stories to both those teams because you know and I know they wanted to move KD, which was probably the smartest thing the Suns could have
Could have
done,
done.
but they found a way to mess that up and they weren't able to move him. And they found out you tried to move him. So that locker room that's probably not the best locker room right now. I feel like this offseason they're gonna mutually part ways, which is sad to me because at some point when you look at really, really great players, what I hate to see from really, really great players is at the end of their careers, they're on 7, 8, 9. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
KD's bounced around a lot to be as great as he is. I feel like, dude, go home. Go to Oklahoma City. Go home and help SGA win a title. You know what I mean? Like that would be a great ending for him that he goes home, helps SGA win. He wouldn't be the man there. It's SGA's squad, but he'd be the next guy.
he'd be number two.
Right.
He'd be
Right.
number
He'd
two.
be number two, and he would help
Mhm.
them win a title.
Yep.
Matter of fact, if they had him this year, I think they'd win the title. But Katie's a great player, Will, but you know that he's made a lot of weird decisions.
Yeah.
And I think it started when he left the Warriors. And it's funny because Golden State was trying to get him during the trade deadline, right? They were
Yep.
trying to get him, and KD
Yep.
was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah,
And
I'm good.
the reason why
I'm
he said
good,
he was
cuz.
good, Will, right? But you know why he said it? He was in a no-win situation. If I go back to Steph and Draymond and that culture, and we don't win anything, they're gonna look at me. Even though I just got there, they're gonna look at me.
Right.
If I go back and we go on a great run and we win another title,
It's because of Steph.
they're gonna look at Steph, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the position that he's in. So I
Yep.
get why he was reluctant to go back.
Now, let me ask this question. We talked about him a little bit earlier. Is Jason Tatum underappreciated as a player?
I used to didn't think so, but if you think about his career, what he's done in his career, he pointed it out. He didn't normally point those kind of things out, but he said something that was true. I'm 26. I've lived in the conference finals. I've been to 2 NBA finals.
Yep.
I've won a title. If you look at the start of great players' careers, he's had one of the best starts in NBA history.
Mm-hmm.
Now I always go, your start is cool, but how you finish? Because it's great. It's
Right.
great to have a great start, but he has a case. I think the problem with Tatum is fans and maybe his peers, they don't view him as an alpha, as a killer, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, and it's
Right.
weird because who does he admire? Who's his GOAT? His GOAT's Kobe.
Yeah.
He's a Kobe guy. And I believe he puts in the work like Kobe. I believe there's no doubt he's a gym rat, but he's nothing like Kobe. You watch Tatum play. He don't play like Kobe.
No.
Kobe stayed in attack mode. Tatum will cross a guy up, stagger his legs, but come back to him. You know what I mean? Because he can't help himself to do that step back.
Yeah.
They don't see him as a dog. And I'm going to go another way with this. I don't think he has to be a dog, in his case, to be a great player. I just think that's his personality. But anybody that underwrite, look, all I know is this. He has already won a title.
Mm-hmm.
He's beaten Giannis in series where he had bigger games in the deciding game than Giannis did. Like he's played great against great players. I think that because he's lost at times, he's shown a vulnerability, and so people they just don't view him as the dude. Like nobody's going to argue, at least I don't think, that knows basketball. Nobody's going to argue that he's a top 10 player. The question is, I think most people have him outside the top 5.
That really is a shame when you go back and look at everything that he has accomplished in the league.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Now, like the last time we didn't get a chance to talk about this. It looks like Wemby's going to be out for the remainder of the season. Your thoughts on that, and what does that do to the Spurs, if anything?
It's disappointing for NBA fans, Spurs fans. I'm disappointed for that young man because he was having a great season, and he looked like he was going to put the Spurs in a position to actually make the playoffs this year. But look, your health first, right? Your health first. Your long-term health, your long-term life is more important. So get the treatment, get the blood thinners, do what you need to do so that this time, when training camp rolls around next season, he's ready to go. And that's the smart thing, right? Take care of him first, and then worry about everything that happens on the court. So as far as the rest of the Spurs and what they could or won't do, I don't think they have enough to make a playoff run now. But there's an upside. With Wemby being gone, I think their draft pick is going to elevate, right?
Yes.
They might very well, they're going to have a lottery pick. And you've already got the young guy Castle on board. You've got Devin Vassell on board, and you've got Wemby. What if you add another guy and you have an organic big three? Do you know what I'm saying?
What if they get Cooper Flag?
What if they do? What if they do?
Ooh-wee.
Cooper Flag,
Ooh-wee.
Wemby, and Stephen Castle? Wow.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
I don't care. Somebody argued me down the other day. I said Castle is your rookie of the year. And somebody tried to argue me. How can you argue me down on that? He's playing so well.
I think Castle has a case for rookie of the year in terms of what he does on both ends of the floor. And really, his only flaw in his game is that he's got a more consistent perimeter shot. But
Yeah.
the kid he gets into you. He's a dog on defense, and offensively, he stays in attack mode. So I like where he's going. Going to be fun to watch his development. Look, when you look at the Spurs, top to bottom, outside of Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul, they are so young. They're a young
Yep.
team, and they're about to get younger this off season. So again, I'm I'm disappointed that Wemby's season got cut short. I'm happy though that he's getting the treatment he needs
Yes.
to get over this hurdle and be ready to go next season. And I'm really intrigued. Like everybody wants Cooper Flag, and you can make an argument like, "Wow, if the Spurs get Cooper Flag, look what that would be like." Or if the Sixers would get Cooper Flag, here's what I'll say: I know Sixer fans would love to get Cooper Flag, but just for the sake of the NBA and because Daryl Morey and them,
You
they
said for the sake.
they find more ways than not to mess up than to get it right. I don't want Cooper Flag in Philly, man. Put him in a better culture, in a better situation. Set him up to win with the Spurs. Set him up to win
Yes.
with the Spurs. Like,
Yes.
I don't want Cooper Flag being a Charlotte Hornet. You're setting that young man up for failure. You're setting
Yes.
that young man up for. So I hope he goes to a franchise that has great leadership, top to bottom.
Now, I also do want to say shout out to Greg Popovich. Understand he's not coming back for the remainder of the season. Symptoms of a stroke, I do believe, if I heard that correctly. So shout out to Pop. If Pop decides not to come back, he has nothing left to prove.
He doesn't.
Who do you think might be a coaching target who could take his place?
They're a young team. I think you want a coach that's relatable to young players. So
Yes.
what you don't want to do is
Yes.
recycle an old coach. I would say this, knowing the way Pop thinks, if he doesn't come back, I think he says ride with the young interim coach they have now.
Mhm.
Because I think he's a good coach. And the same way they're developing and growing, he can grow with them. He can be the next Joe Mazzulla, right?
Right.
The
Right.
young coach that's relatable to the players but knows the game. He can be the next Joe Mazzulla. And I think the way the Spurs are, they do promote internally. So I think he would be the next head coach of the Spurs, and I think that'll be the right fit.
All right, Mo. Last night I had to go through more disappointment. Not only did the Knicks win, but my Bulls lost yesterday. Lost to the Clippers, 122 to 117.
That was a good game.
It was. It really was. Surprisingly enough. Can the Clippers make some noise in the playoffs?
No.
Do the Clippers like that, man?
I think they've had so if you look at the season they've had already, to this point, you would have to say they're one of the surprises in the league.
Yes.
And then they've gotten Kawhi back, but they brought him back very slowly. Like if you watch
Yeah.
the Clippers play, and maybe this might be the plan going forward to keep him healthy, he's the third option.
Mhm.
He hasn't come back where everything's built around him. He's the third option behind Norman Powell and James Harden.
Harden. Mm-hmm.
And maybe if they have a chance to make a big run, it might be that he's the third option and he can be fresher in fourth quarters. Like, do I think they could upset maybe a higher seed if they make the playoffs? Because they've been losing lately. They won last night against your Bulls, but should they get in? Yeah, I think the Clippers are good enough to upset a higher seed because outside of Oklahoma City, they wouldn't upset Oklahoma City. But
No. No. No.
everybody else is very vulnerable, very vulnerable. So yeah, I think I give them a puncher's shot to upset somebody, and it'll be fun to watch. I've enjoyed watching how well Harden has played at this point in his career.
I
Now
thought he was washed.
right, and look at him now. Now he's completely a point guard. He's scoring a little bit
Mhm.
more, but he's a point guard, and
Mhm.
he's a very good point guard. And it's allowed Norman Powell, who's been a bucket his whole career, to shine.
Yep.
And Big Z's had a good year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like they've resurrected some veterans' careers, and they've had good seasons from them. Amir Coffey's been a good player for them. So
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed watching them play, and I'll give them a puncher's shot to upset somebody. But the West is it's unlike the East. The East is very straight line. You know who the
Yeah.
four best team in the East are.
Yeah.
In the West, there's the difference between like 2 and 6 or 7, it's a couple of games. It's
Yep.
that it's
Yep.
that convoluted.
Yep. Now we saw Ben Simmons had a triple single last night, but again, I still think that if you get anything out of him, and you actually make a little bit of a run in the playoff, you upset somebody and he plays well, double tie lose check, did double it.
All I know is, look, with Ben at his peak, he was never a scorer.
No.
And I mean, he gave you 16 in the game, but most of that was in transition and dives. But
Yep. Dunks.
obviously, he had the mental situation in the Atlanta series, and it took him 3 or 4 years to even get back. What I would say is this: going forward, if someone told me, "Well, Mo, the rest of his career, Ben Simmons is going to be 8, 8, and 8," that's a terrific role player. 8, 8, and 8, and you can guard
Draymond Green.
Well, look, he was a better version of Draymond offensively, maybe,
Yep.
and not the dog defensively, but he was a more versatile defender. But
Right.
yeah, I think I was getting ready to say, look, Ben can be that on any team. You aren't talking. Think about that: 8, 8, and 8, and you can play high level defense. So I think Ben Simmons has value as a basketball player. He just doesn't have value if you're trying to look at him as a star. That ship has sailed. He's no longer a star, but can he be a productive, impactful basketball player? Absolutely.
All right. Let's go ahead and switch gears from the NBA over to the NFL. Man, this whole Matt Stafford thing is starting to heat up. You're hearing all these different teams coming through. You're hearing meetings with Tom Brady, and him possibly going to the Raiders. The Giants trying to get him. Now he says his salary cap, I think he was looking for a deal worth 50 mil. How do you think that situation plays out, Mo?
The Rams, he's already got a number in mind. The Rams already got a number in mind. Let's start with this. They absolutely want to retain and keep Matt Stafford as their quarterback.
Yes.
The problem is he and his agent are going to do something, and it's common sense. They're going to point to, there's 16 guys that make more money than I do, right? There's 16 quarterbacks that make more money than Matthew Stafford. And what he and his agent are going to point out, there's not 16 guys better than me.
No.
So, it's just that cut and dry. And what the Rams have to be realistic about is, we love you, man, but we can't put you at that number because you're 36. We're not going to give you a 4 or 5 year deal, right? Like, I think Matthew Stafford ends up playing somewhere else. I think we've got musical chairs, or you can call it the domino effect. The most valuable quarterback out there is not a free agent, but who could be moved, is Matthew Stafford. And I think the Giants are looking at him. I think the best team for him, though, is Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh needs to do something they don't normally do, because they don't trade a lot. They don't do a lot of trading.
No.
But look, you get Matthew Stafford on a team that's built to win right now, and he elevates everybody on your offense. Immediately elevates your offense.
Neighbors get better.
Right now, look, going to the Giants, I get why people go, well, he's got Neighbors. He also has one of the worst offensive line in football.
Yep.
And if you're Matthew Stafford, Malik Neighbors won't matter because you're going to be on your back. You're not going to be throwing it to him because you're going to be on your back. So I don't.
No running game too.
Right. If he just wants the money, if he's like, I'm gonna get the money, I'm not even worried about winning, then he'll end up on the Giants and be good with that. I wouldn't. If he has a choice in it, you're gonna go somewhere that you can still contend. He can contend in Pittsburgh. Look, it's pie in the sky, and I love Brock Purdy, but he can contend in San Francisco too. I'm just saying.
He can.
I'm just saying. Here's the thing: is Matthew Stafford better than Brock Purdy? Yeah. This isn't a long conversation. I love Brock. He's overachieved. He's terrific. Not better than Matthew Stafford. So I'm just being real. If you go, well, Brock Purdy's only 25, right? But if I got Matthew Stafford and he gives me one Super Bowl, just one,
that's worth it.
One Super Bowl, and he's garbage the rest of the time he's with us, it's worth it.
It's worth
100% worth it, right? So
it's worth it.
I'm just putting it out there. I think wherever Stafford goes, Aaron Rodgers is the next guy up, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? Like if Stafford goes to the Giants, then Aaron Rodgers is probably going to go to the Rams.
I was just about to come on here this morning and talk about Justin Fields to my Saints, but it got announced yesterday that they've decided to go with Derek Hughes' Carr. I was so disappointed yesterday with that decision.
Oh, they're not going to give the young guy a shot?
No, they said yesterday that Derek Carr is going to be their starter, not Spencer Rattler. Um, and I think that's just ridiculous. I think it's just crazy. I understand you're paying him. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean he's any good. He's mid, very mid. If you look at the top 20 quarterbacks, he's 18, very mid. What do you think this Saints got to do to rectify the situation?
I think they've already made some steps by trying to they put another GM in, right? That was the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you had to do. So they're already trying to change their approach to the way they draft, the culture. So that's the first step. The second step is, look, I get that you're paying Derek Carr, but you got to be realistic. I think that if you give Rattler a chance, the kid has talent. He's got talent, and I think he's your future. Derek Carr's not your future. Derek
No.
Carr is one of those quarterbacks that everybody says they give him all this high praise. They talk about his arm strength and all those things, but in the end, he's not that good. He's never been that good.
No.
Like Russell Wilson is on the other side of his career, but he's always been better than Derek Carr.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's better than Derek Carr right now today. Still better than
Yeah.
Derek Carr. Like I just think Derek Carr has been vastly overrated. He had one really good season with the Raiders. He's had a bunch of meh seasons since then.
Very mid. Very
he,
mid.
he look, some quarterbacks walk into a locker room or you see them on the field and you go, "We got our guy. That's the dude." You just see it. In Derek Carr, you never see it.
Now let me ask you about some rumors and accusations rumors that I heard about the NFL. And I don't know why Minnesota would do this, but it looks rumor I heard yesterday, the Broncos were looking at Aaron Jones. Um, I don't know why Minnesota would do that. Aaron Jones had a good season last season.
I think Aaron Jones showed the Vikings and the league that he's still a dual threat as far as running the football and catching it out the backfield. Look, I know he's older, but he's one of those guys. If you watch him, he's aging well, right? Still playing at a high level, still terrific in space. I don't even think his cap number is super high. So look, if you don't value him, Sean Payton loves running backs that can do more than one thing.
Yep.
Sean Payton will value him. And I think Denver is one of those teams. I think Denver is poised to be back in the playoffs, but be even better than they were last year. So adding an Aaron Jones, great for Denver. I don't know what Minnesota's thinking. I know you hear people go, well, you can just go out and draft a running back. You can, but if you just go out and draft a running back, just a running back, then you're gonna have just a guy. Not every running back's the same. This idea that running backs are interchangeable. They're interchangeable in terms of what you can pay them. They're not interchangeable in what they can do. There's levels to what running backs are. There are not 4 or 5 Derrick Henrys. They're not 4 or 5 Saquon Barkleys. Those are different. Even I can't remember his name, the guy that was on the Raiders, but he's on the Packers now. He's a terrific running back in his own right. Like I feel like there are some teams are split on the value of running backs. Some realize you have to have a special one, and others are like, we can just do running back by committee.
Right. Now let me ask you this: Jalen Hurts and the success that he has had so far since he's been a Philadelphia Eagle, does that lament or show the failures of Dak Prescott and everything he's been through in his career?
I think it can kind of highlight it because obviously Dallas wasn't nearly as talented as they had been in previous years. But thank you, Brett, Josh Jacobs.
Thank you, Brett.
That guy, Josh Jacobs, is a terrific running back, especially in between the tackles. But look, for years, Dak has had a ton of talent, right? For years, every year we're like, look at Dallas's offense. This is where they're going to be. And then just kind of come up short. Yeah, I think that if you look at Jalen Hurts' success, he's already played in 2 Super Bowls and he's won one. And he's won one. And so how can there not be pressure on the guy who currently is the highest paid quarterback in football? That's kind of crazy if you think about it. And it's not all on Dak Prescott, but sports comes with a degree of pressure. Your division opponent. You could argue that the Cowboys are their biggest rival, right? The Eagles and
Yep.
Cowboys. It's
Yep.
either Eagles Cowboys or Cowboys Redskins. But you know what? Even then, the Redskins quarterback, their rookie quarterback, won playoff games. The rookie quarterback has already been more successful than Dak Prescott in the postseason. So how does he not feel pressure? Even though they're not as talented as they were, we always give quarterback praises when they win. And then when we lose, we usually make excuses for the guys around them. In this case, you can point at Dak as well. You can point
Yes.
at him as well. He has to have a ton of pressure on him going into going into next season, and it's rightly so. Look at the division.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the
Agreed.
division.
Agreed.
Redskins have a young quarterback. Jalen Hurts is pretty young in himself. And then you've got the Giants, who I think they're going to draft a quarterback and sign a bridge quarterback or trade for a bridge quarterback. And here, right, and here's Dallas, and they're strapped.
Yep.
And they got to pay Micah Parsons. And how do you make it work if you have all that money wrapped up in a receiver, an edge rusher, a quarterback? How do you make that work when you're trying to pay everybody else and then bring in some more star talent? It's going to be interesting.
It will be. It will be. Now, I'm asking you about the NFL. Scott, at the NFL Combine, got some rumors of players not going, particularly some quarterbacks not throwing at the Combine. Should we be upset with players by that decision?
So the way I look at this is, if you don't want to throw in the Combine, it's been years now and they've been doing this. I've been conditioned to it, right? We're conditioned to it now. So I'm like, all right, don't throw at the Combine. Most guys don't throw at the Combine. Why, Will? Because they fear like, yeah, I can only hurt myself, right?
Right.
If you're Shedeur Sanders, you're like, there's a spot where I'm drafted at, right? They've already kind of got me slotted a certain way. Throwing at the Combine can only hurt me. Whereas if you're one of those quarterbacks that's not very known or nobody's really heard of you, throwing well at the Combine can boost up your draft status. So I get why Shedeur and others aren't going to throw. I have no problem with it. This is just where the league is at.
Now, Brett asks, who do you guys think will this year's Combine baby be?
I don't know. That's a good question. There's there's gonna be some guy that runs a 4.2, have a 40-inch vertical, do the bench press 40 reps or something insane like that. There's always a Combine baby.
I think it's Dart too. I agree with you, Brett.
Really? You think it's gonna be Dart?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be Dart too. Yeah,
he's a freak. The question is, as a Combine baby, is he going to be a good football player at the next level,
right.
or are we just going to remember he had a great workout?
Because how many times have we seen that? You look good doing wearing shorts and a t-shirt, but when it comes time to play, you ain't all there.
Right. When you put them pads on, suddenly nobody remembers that Combine workout.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And look, the Combine it's not an exact science. I've seen guys that had amazing combines, and then the greatest quarterback of all time, he looked like he needed help crossing the finish line when he was running. Like that might be the worst combine workout ever. And look, I'm just saying, and look where he ended up. I was just talking about Brock Purdy. Brock he went to the Combine and it impressed him so much he was the last pick in the draft. But look where he's at now.
Right.
Now. So I'm just saying.
All right. Should the NFL ban the tush push?
So Cottrell brought up a good point. He doesn't feel like it's football. And initially I was going to be like, no, it's football. I don't know. It's difficult, right? Because you're not supposed to be able to push another player, right? Even in college football, they have a problem with that. I say 1 minute I want to say ban it, and then the next minute I want to say, look, find a way to stop it.
Right.
Find a way to stop it, or just balance the scales. They don't let defense push their players, but let the defense push their guys too. You know what I mean? Then make it a battle of wheels. Don't ban the tush push. Just give the defense a fair chance to stop it.
Now, I was reading some stuff on ESPN.com the other day, and it looks like Bill Copper Jr. has Cam Ward over Travis Hunter. Do you agree with that assessment?
Cam Ward is special.
He is.
Let's start there. But personally, I would go with Travis Hunter. I think Travis Hunter is special as well. He's definitely a better. He's a really good receiver, but he's definitely a better corner than he is a receiver,
Yeah, yeah.
in my
But
opinion.
how do you how do you do it to where would you have him play both? Maybe play one full time and sprinkling him in on the other position, or would you have him playing one over the other?
I would let him play both, but I would let him be a full time corner and a situational wide receiver. You know what I mean? That's how I would go. I would have a 1 and 2 on offense. When he played, he'd be my third wide receiver.
Mhm. What's your thought? Now, let me ask you this: what's your thought on Shadur Sanders? Where do you think he's going to end up? I think Kuiper has him at 7. I think.
Yeah, I think he's gonna. I think he will be in the top 10. So I think he could go. It could be 7 or 10, but I think he's a top 10. I don't know where he's going to go, but I know the teams that need quarterbacks. So you look at the Giants, and you look at the Raiders, and you look at those teams. You know already. Here's the question though: if you draft Shador Sanders,
Mm.
is he one of those guys that comes in, goes to training camp, establishes himself as the number one, or he goes to training camp and they say it's an open competition, but in reality, what they're saying is we're going to let you sit for a year, which isn't a bad thing, by the way.
No, no, no.
I think there's value in that when some guys aren't ready right away, that they need to sit and learn the game and just see firsthand how you go about yourself as a professional. I think it's a good thing. So I think Shadur Sanders, whoever drafts him, they should bring him along slowly. Just don't throw him out there and say swim.
I think if the Titans pass on the QB, it's telling about the state of this year's quarterback class. That's a good point. That's a good point.
I would agree with that, except for it's the Titans, and they don't have a right to pass on anything. Um, they don't have a
So
right to
true.
they
So
don't have a
true.
right to, they don't have a right to pass on anything. You can say the quarterback class is not very good, but your best quarterback is Will Levis. He's not very good either.
Will
So
Levis and Mason Rudolph.
right, so, and they're not very good either. Like if you combine the two, you still ain't got a quarterback. So I don't think the Titans are in a position to go where we're not gonna draft the quarterback. You better draft the quarterback because you ain't got one right now.
Right, right, right. Well, let me ask you this as we come down to finishing up the show here on Coffee and Sports in the Morning, right here on Wire to Wire Sports. It looks like the Chiefs are expecting Travis Kelce to return in 2025. You think that's the right move?
I think it's the right move for him if he still thinks that he can contribute and be a valuable piece to them. I think he still can, but I think it's in a different role. I don't think he's the full time tight end. I think they bring in another tight end who's more of a vertical threat, and I think they split time. But I think he still has value, and I still think he can help them. And look, as a competitor, if he feels like he's not done yet, good for him. I think you should play until your mind and your body, your soul aren't in it anymore. So I'm glad that he's coming back.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I wouldn't want to go out that way from the Super Bowl. I wouldn't
It's
want to go out that way.
it's a tough way to go out, but I would say this: more great players have gone out in lesser important games. Like he could have gone out on a Super Bowl loss. What if his last game ends up being a playoff loss, or they don't make the play? I'm just saying there's so many different scenarios. Very few players get to walk away with that kind of moving end the that ending to their career that's like made for a movie. It's very rare.
Oh, you're right. You're right for sure. You're right for sure. Um, I just think this year coming up is going to be huge in the NFL. I think the draft, other than quarterback, I think the draft is going to be very good. Um, and I can't wait to see it. I know we got spring ball coming through, and I'm not trying to disrespect those guys at all, but NFL is king, and I want to see that come back sooner than later. Do you like spring football? USFL, XFL? Do you like that football? That brand of football?
If I'm channel surfing and I see it, will I stop and watch it? Yeah, I will. if it's compelling and it's entertaining, but do I make plans for the schedule and who's going to play who? Like, nah, I don't do all that. Let me be really honest. Let me be really honest. Like, 5 XFL teams could walk past me and I wouldn't know they're in the XFL. I would just say they're just a
Wow.
bunch of big dudes walking around. Like, I don't. That's how much I know about the XFL. I'm not knocking it because I do think there's value in it if you're a football fan, especially if football is your thing, like your main thing. Then you can watch it and it could be entertaining to you. For me, I'm like you. The NFL is king, and even though they're not playing, they give you so many other things to talk about. They who's going to get cut, who you draft, and or where they land. There's all the NFL finds a way to entertain us. Now, look, the NFL and the NBA find a way to entertain us basically year round. Even in the off season, they find ways to entertain us with all the different what if scenarios and who's going here or who might get cut. So I don't have any problem with the XFL. It's not my thing.
I understand. I
I mean,
understand.
I would rather watch like old wrestling matches than watch XFL. So. You can give me an old match with Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. I watch that over the XFL.
Hey, real quick, shout out to Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. They are your new women's tag team champions. So shout out to them. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but shout out to them.
Shout out to them. I actually think they hold the belts for a little bit, for a while, because I think Liv can elevate the tag team belts. She's still one of those people you love to hate. She's got a lot of heat on her. And it sets up for another storyline because obviously with them losing the belts, something's going to happen at Elimination Chamber. And I think it's going to be Jade coming back. Yep. And you're going to get a more definitive idea of who it was and if the other person was involved, right? Like,
I still say it's Naomi.
Right. And most people think so too. The question is it just Naomi or was Bianca involved as well?
Right. That'd be jacked up if it was.
Right.
But there's rumor going back saying those two don't get along, but I don't know how true that rumor is.
Naomi and Bianca?
Bianca and Jade.
I don't know.
I don't know how true that is.
It could be competitive. I mean, look, they're both freakish athletes. Everybody, there can only be one, right? At some point down the line. Right. However this storyline plays out, and I know we're going to get Bianca versus Jade. Or as Gene suggested, and I think Brett agrees, maybe you get a triple threat match at WrestleMania, and it's all three of them against each other.
Work for me.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm
all here for that. I'm all here for that for sure. Again, I don't, because, look, I just love seeing. I'm a big fan of Bianca Belair. Huge fan. Huge fan of her husband too. What do you think he does? Because he should have a good singles career by now. But like he's stuck in the tag team position. Montez Ford.
I think he should be the next guy that gets a big push, that gets put over. He's a terrific talent. Think about all the praise and accolades that Logan Paul gets, right?
Mm.
And by the way, he's a tremendous talent. It's it's deserving.
For sure.
But my point being, Montez Ford is every bit as talented, every bit as athletic.
Yes.
And Montez Ford hasn't really get that push yet. Like I'm looking at the United States belt, the Intercontinental title. I think it's time to bring in some younger talent and let a guy like Montez Ford get a run at those titles. I think he can elevate it. I think he can become a bigger fan favorite. And I don't even think you have to break up the tag team. I just think that you elevate him as a singles competitor.
Good point. And I think he does deserve that fact. I think he does deserve that. Thoughts on as we finish up here? Got about 6 minutes, maybe 5 minutes remaining. Coffin Sports in the Morning, right here on Wire to Wire Sports. Let me ask you this: Jordan Grace, do you think she's gonna be the next big thing in WWE like she was over in Impact?
I hope she gets a push. You know what I mean? Like I know there's so many talented women already in the women's division, but I think that depending on where they want to take her character, I think she has the in-ring talent that she's worthy of the push. Even if you want to push her, maybe not necessarily as a singles competitor, make her part of a really great tag team. But I think she deserves some kind of push where she gets more shine.
She punched the heck out of Roxanne Perez the other night.
She did.
Oh my gosh. And you could sort of kind of tell she was trying to get ready for it. You could sort of kind of see it, but still. Oh my goodness. Oh
That
my goodness.
wow, that was a moment. Like she caught her.
Yeah. Caught a flush.
Yeah,
Said,
she caught her flush.
Boy.
Sometimes you look at wrestling and go, that look kind of real.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that look kind of personal. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mo, as we wrap things up here, tell us what you got going on this week, what you got going on your TikTok channel.
Well, on the TikTok channel at Mo Better 3000, I'm just doing different fantasy matchups. I ask simple questions. Like last night I did, who's the better basketball player, Joker or Giannis? Something simple like that. Yeah, I mean, because there's levels to this. As far as the weekend, I'm gonna watch a lot of NBA.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be doing my guilty pleasure. And look, this is a rite of passage to men. I'm gonna play some Madden.
Ain't no wrong with that.
That's a rite of passage, right? That is a rite of passage.
You playing a new one? Which one you playing?
I'm playing the current one right now.
Okay. All right, Mo. We're gonna go ahead and close things out here in Coffee and Sports Coffee and Sports in the morning this morning. Right here on Wire to Wire Sports. Go ahead and close us out, my friend.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
All right, guys. My name is William Morgan. That is my partner, Mo Better, for the morning. I will see you guys again on Wednesday. Brett will be in tomorrow hosting this very fine program. And I'll see you guys next week. Everyone have a good week. Have a safe week and take care.